Good afternoon. It's Gail Foley coming to you live from Briargate Pond. I just have to tell you, I've called this turning point because today is the effect, I guess, of a turning point in my life. 14 years ago today, I married my wonderful husband. I had been single for 14 years prior to that. There were many years during that 14 years that I didn't even date anyone. I had made the decision that I was perfectly content, in fact, very, very happy to be a single woman. And I would successfully take myself to the movies, I'd take myself to dinner. I did everything by myself or with friends, and I was very happy with that. And I'll never forget one night I was out with a girlfriend who lived with a gentleman, and they invited me for dinner. And I found it so fascinating as I watched their interaction, the conflict that came up when he was ready to leave and she wasn't. And as I was driving home, I was thinking, wow, that is such a blessing to be single. I don't have to ask anyone. I mean, I go to the bathroom, I look in the mirror, Gail, do we want to leave now or not? No, we don't. Okay, so I love just consulting with me when those decisions were needed to be made. So I really never planned or pictured myself getting married again. I had two beautiful daughters. I had grandchildren, I had friends, I had a great career. I really didn't need a permanent man in my life. I sort of like variety. There's a lot of people out there. So I experienced something very strange. I had moved here to be with my kids. I had been in Williamsburg, Virginia, happily selling timeshare, loving the culture and colonialism and all of that stuff. Felt that that's where I was supposed to be. But because of life changes in the Air Force and all that commotion, they ended up where I am now. And I decided to join them. And it was wonderful and I loved it. But then about 4 years, oh no, I guess probably about 14 years here, I started thinking that my kids were starting to invite me to go with them to different things because they were starting to feel sorry for me. Because I was in my 14th year of being single. And I really didn't have a big social life because I had a very busy day life. So I didn't mind just coming home and cozying up with my chocolate almond ice cream tub and my movies, and I was very content. But I started feeling like that's why I was getting invited to everything they did. And I didn't like that feeling. I didn't want them to think that they had to intervene to keep mom from, going bonkers because she wasn't doing anything. I was okay. But I decided to attend a church group that was called Thursday Nights Together, and it was set up for single people. I'm not going to give you the whole story because it would take too long. But I ended up meeting my husband at a class called Humor Escapes. This was the third year I'd gone to this group, and each year I chose a different 6 weeks class. And I did it just simply because, okay, I knew that I'd have something to do on Thursday nights. I love to laugh, and I thought, oh, what the heck. Never ever in my wildest imagination figured I was going to end up married 3 months later. Yep, that's all it took. My parents got married after 6 weeks of knowing each other, so I sort of had a pattern there that I was okay with that. But the turning point for me was not so much transitioning into living with someone again and being married to someone again. We seemed to move into that very easily. What my turning point was compromising. I was very used to running the show because it was my show and it was just me. So when I would be invited to something, I would just automatically tell my husband, hey, we're going to go do this. Well, he'd been in a very controlling marriage, and whoa, not a good thing. So I had to learn that when I was invited, or we were invited to something, I would tell him, we've been invited to this, I plan to go, if you want to go, let me know. And so that has worked very well for 14 years. And it's kept the peace because I understand, I don't like being controlled either. But the turning point also became very much about change. I didn't want to change my husband. I loved him the way that he is. But there was a predisposition in him to be very negative. Now in that 3 months time frame, of course, we were in love mode, and that's where we were for 2 years. And then suddenly we woke up, and oh my goodness, I got to get back to the gym. I got to get back to doing things I used to do, and like, well, okay. So we started living different time frames. He gets up and goes to work at 4:30. I get up at 7:30 and exercise. He goes to bed at 8. I go to bed at midnight. And so some of those issues were sort of hard to overcome, but we've worked it out. We're doing pretty good on that. But one of the things I could not tolerate was his immediate response to everything was a no. Did not matter what it was. And I started recognizing this. It was a habit he had. And it was a very disturbing habit, because not only was he not flexible when it came to his schedule, but if he was asked to change his schedule, I'd watch this man almost go through a nervous breakdown, because he'd made himself a commitment that these were the things he was going to get done that day, and therefore he wasn't going to go off that schedule. So his response, therefore, was always a no. But then he'd wrestle with himself, because I was going to go over and play with the grandkids, and he was going to stay home and do these chores he lined up for himself, and he'd be miserable. And he'd take that misery out on me, because he'd made a decision, but he felt like he was missing out on something. So he has realized that it's okay, that that chore is not as important as being with the grandkids. They're growing up very fast. Pretty soon they'll be off and gone. And he'll go, oh crap, I could have done that oil change another day. So those are little minute turning points. But the big turning point came in our 8th year of marriage. On our 8th anniversary, he said to me, 8 is enough. And he said it in a joking way in relationship to an old TV movie that used a TV show that was called 8 is Enough. And it was combined kids and all this stuff. But I looked at him and I said, you know what? 8 is enough. And he looked at me and he says, what? I said, yeah, Kurt. I said, I'm just really tired of your negativity. I said, I am out there with a mission to help people be positive and find better ways in making a difference in enlightening them to a way to look at things differently and to respond positively. And I said, I have an ongoing wrestling match with you because you have such an ingrained habit of always saying no first. Now, he does sometimes still say no first, but then he will catch himself, and I've learned to let that happen. But at this time, I said to him, I said, you got 1 year. I'm giving you 1 year to flip that around, because I know you can do it. I've done it myself, and so I'm going to ask you to please find a way to embrace and be more of a positive person. So I handed him the book, The Yes Attitude by Jeff Gitomer. It's a wonderful little tiny book. It's fabulous. I gave it to him, and a year later, his supervisor was asking him to give a presentation to his coworkers about being enthusiastic and always having a positive attitude. So that turning point was phenomenal, and from there the turning points have continued. He continues to embrace personal development. I continue to share with him things that I've learned, the things that I've embraced. But this man who used to say no all the time will sometimes fall back in that habit, but then catch himself. And I can't get away with anything. If I'm having a terrible day and I say anything negative, bam, it comes right back at me. It is so awesome. So our turning point for today is that we've just hit 14 years. And what's really, really awesome is ever since I started this blogging, and ever since he started being more creative, looking at the future to what he's going to be doing, it has really triggered a change in our relationship. I had no idea that would happen, but you know what I figured out? When you are really, really happy with what you're doing and excited about it and sharing it with your significant other, and they're doing something that they're loving and they're excited and they're learning, that comes right back at you. So you just got this wonderful, wonderful vortex of energy and excitement because I'm learning this internet marketing and I'm learning this blogging platform. And he in turn is refreshing his skills that he would like to embrace and use in his next career once he's done with this company that's letting him go after 33 years. So our turning point is not just we're celebrating 14 years, we're exhilarated as we head into our next 14 and beyond. So I share with you today that whether you call it turning point or tipping point, I've had a few of those, I'll talk about those another time. One of the things that I want to share with you is that if you're struggling with something and you want to turn it around, you got to look internally first to see how you can do that. I was talking to a friend of mine today. She's a customer of mine. She uses the carts. She just bought a hula hoop from me. And I asked her, I said, are you using your hula hoop? And she says, no, I can't get it to go. And I said, okay, you need to true it 2 minutes at a time until you get it going for 2 minutes, and then you increase it, and you increase it, and then you get to 10 minutes. And she looked at me, and she said, well, I'm in a depressed mode, and when I'm in a depressed mode, I don't do anything. And I looked at her. I said, but that's a choice. She said, yes, I know that. And she said, I've chosen to be there. I said, I totally understand. I've been in depression, and yes, you do. It's easier, way easier to stay in that depression than reach out and change something about yourself. It's so much easier. But I did it, so I know other people can do it. So I'm hoping my friend will have that turning point in her life. Turning points are fun. Sometimes turning points become catalysts because of something else that's happened in your life. I'm grateful today that my turning point comes from something wonderful and refreshing and awesome. So today, from Briar Gate Pond, I'm going to sign off asking you to change someone else's day by simply passing on a smile to them. Thank you. Have a great one. I'm going to go celebrate now. Bye-bye.